History made with Seth Rollins leaving the main event of WrestleMania, a match in which he wasn't even scheduled to participate as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. For my money, it's the greatest cash-in ever and only proves that Seth Rollins has always been the visionary. WrestleMania has always been the place where the impossible's made possible, where dreams become a reality. And that was never more apparent than at WrestleMania 35 in New Jersey, when for the first time in its history, WrestleMania was main evented by the women of WWE. Ronda Rousey arrived in WWE like a tornado, first impressing in her debut at WrestleMania 34 before steamrolling her way to the Raw Women's Championship at SummerSlam 2018. The former MMA champion looked unstoppable, using her wide array of throws and arm bars to hold everyone at bay. As Survivor Series approached, Becky Lynch, now SmackDown Women's Champion, would be set up to compete against Rousey. Unfortunately for Becky, she'd be replaced by Charlotte Flair after Becky was taken out of action following an inter-brand brawl on Raw. At Survivor Series, Charlotte would show a vicious side in a disqualification loss to Rousey. Becky, however, wanted this fight more than anything. At the 2019 Royal Rumble, Becky Lynch would enter the match in someone else's place, ultimately winning it all by eliminating, you guessed it, Charlotte Flair. But before everything could be finalized, more bad news for Becky, as an injury to her knee led to her not being cleared to compete at WrestleMania, and WWE would replace her with Charlotte Flair. Becky would not sit by and just let that happen, however, and ultimately got her clearance. With that, she was added back to the match, and we now had a triple threat set up for the Raw Women's Championship. The surprises were not done, though. Shortly before WrestleMania, Charlotte would shock the world of sports entertainment by defeating Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And now the match would be winner takes all, meaning the winner would be both Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion. Three of the most talented women on the roster look to dazzle the world in the first ever women's main event at WrestleMania. Can you go out there and be the last kicker we all know Becky to be? Or will Charlotte and Ronda prove to be too much for you to overcome? Time to show everyone who really is the man. Ronda Rousey was the obvious target for Becky and Charlotte, but Ronda immediately went on the offensive, bullying Becky back in the corner. And then turning her attention to Charlotte Flair. Ronda wanted to prove immediately that despite the stature of her opponents, that it was she who was the dominant WWE superstar. Outside the ring, Ronda would not let up, connecting with a Piper's Pit not only to Becky that threw her into the barricade, but also to Charlotte Flair, planting her onto the floor. A second attempt at Piper's Pit on Becky proved to be Rousey's biggest mistake, with Becky shaking free and throwing Ronda into the ring post. Trying to keep her momentum, Ronda ran right into a boot from Becky, staggering her long enough to allow Charlotte Flair to perform a suplex of her own to send Ronda into the barricade herself. Rousey had overwhelmed Charlotte and Becky with her blitzing offense, but Becky was able to compose herself quickly enough to avoid another Piper's Pit, leaving Ronda on the defensive early in the bout. Now, as we all know, a triple threat match is every superstar for themselves. But despite not being friendly with each other, Charlotte and Becky realized that it might be best for them to focus their efforts on Ronda. Looking for a double powerbomb, Ronda would manage to reverse, putting Charlotte in an armbar. But this freed Becky and allowed her to drill Ronda with a low drop kick. With Ronda out of the way, now the Queen and the Man had the ring all to themselves. Ronda still down and out, Charlotte looked to take it up a notch. Her standard knee drop was made more devastating by the removal of her knee pad, and now Becky Lynch was in a bad situation. Charlotte did not let up, repeatedly slamming Becky's face into the mat. Charlotte was making the most of Ronda Rousey being down, willing to put Becky through the mat if it meant she'd leave WrestleMania. When Charlotte tried to interrupt a reverse DDT to Ronda, Becky just added her to the mix, hitting a standard and reverse DDT combo to both. While her attempts at getting the pin failed both times, Becky was now in firm control and didn't show any signs of letting up. Eventually, Rousey found her momentum again and managed the jaw-dropping feat of placing both Becky and Charlotte into arm bars. Realizing that they were better together, Charlotte and Becky would turn the tide on Ronda. Muscling her up and hitting her with a series of double-team power bombs. Ronda did her best to fight free, but was overwhelmed by powerbomb after powerbomb. The two worked well together, but that wasn't the plan. The second she no longer needed help, Charlotte sent Becky to the floor. Charlotte knew exactly what needed to be done in that ring, looking to get the pin when she saw Ronda down. The Queen was in top shape, and despite not getting the pin, she was rolling. Finally, Ronda broke free, and I remember thinking this was it once she hit Becky with that huge running knee. It was academic at that point. She rolled Becky to set her up for Piper's Pit, struggling through the exhaustion and pain to lift her up. And then Becky did the unthinkable. Reversing into a crucifix pin, she was able to surprise the former MMA champion with a pinfall to win the match.
Becky Lynch is the winner.
Ronda was not happy, feeling she'd gotten her shoulder up, but the decision stood, and Becky was named the winner. All three women left it all in the ring. While Charlotte and Ronda were not thrilled in failing to win, neither had any reason to hang their head in shame. Standing in the ring, holding both titles high, Becky Lynch's arduous road to WrestleMania had finally reached its epic conclusion. Becky etches her name into the history books, victorious in the first ever WrestleMania women's main event, leaving as both Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion after pinning Ronda Rousey in the center of the ring. A stellar performance by everyone involved, but it's Becky who had just that little bit extra to get her hand raised. It was another landmark performance by the man.